Welcome back to the Candidate One-on-One interviews. If you're watching this and this is your first video, my name is Cory King. I'm the Executive Director of the Bath-Brunswick Regional Chamber. And this is something we do every cycle with our State House candidates. We do these pretty informal conversations just so our businesses and our citizens in our chamber region get a sense of who's up for these seats. I have a little disclaimer that we do at the beginning of all of these that the chamber does not endorse any candidates for State House. This is purely just a friendly conversation with some friendly people so that you can find out more about them. And our next friendly person is Allison Hepler. Allison, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again, my friend.
Same here.
Um, as you know, we're going to do 5 questions. I try to do the same questions to everybody, but depending on your answers, we'll probably go down a rabbit hole or two as we are wont to do. You know how this goes.
Yeah.
Question number one, what district are you running for and what does that cover?
So my district is House District 49, and it covers the towns of Arrowsic, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Woolwich, which is where I live, and West Bath.
Alton, tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for office.
Hmm. As you may remember, I'm a local select person. I'm in my 13th year as a Woolwich Select Board member. And so that shapes how I think about the state. I feel like because of that, I can advocate pretty vociferously and knowledgeably about things that affect towns, right? I understand mill rates. I understand property taxes. I really understand infrastructure repairs and road repairs in particular. And because I'm a select person, I'm used to being connected to the community. Also, as a historian, I don't know if you know, but I retired 2 years ago from teaching history at University of Maine at Farmington. And that's how I'm also really interested in finding solutions or finding answers to problems that I hear about. But this job as a state representative, it's one of the best jobs in the world. My husband, who's a wooden boat builder, will argue with me, but this is the best job in the world, and it's because of the people I represent, right? These people are doing amazing things. Think back to the January storms. People pulled together in Georgetown to pull traps out of the water because they had been sitting on a dock that collapsed during one of the storms, right? Our towns moved forward to do broadband for the entire community. Our people will forego sometimes local heating assistance because someone else needs it more. I mean, we all have those people in our communities. Our communities, the communities that I represent in particular, they farm and they fish. They do dangerous work to feed us. They coach our kids. They teach our kids. They plow our roads, right? And so I'm proud to represent them, and staying in connected with those communities. That's how I decided 2 years ago to tackle the bottle redemption program. This was something that I didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm going to do this. It was people called me. The redemption centers were closing, right? Clink was overflowing. Our nonprofits that collect bottles to raise money, they were closing. They were overwhelmed. And so I just started calling people. Partly it was like, how hard can this be, right? This is a simple program. And so I called redemption centers. I talked to Clink. I had some field trips. I talked with the state, environmental groups, the distributors, the manufacturers, the people who pick up the bottles. And we pulled together an amazing group of disparate people to create a program that overhauls the system. It was unanimous decision. So that meant it was bipartisan. We didn't get, some people didn't get everything they wanted, but we got a lot. And the result is, as you know, redemption centers are now reopening. Ones that had closed are reopening. They're going to be more efficient. They are more forward thinking. And the state, we also provided money for more state enforcement of fraud so that people aren't pulling in bottles from, New Hampshire or Massachusetts. And also investing in a refillable and a reusable program. And the important thing is, I feel like I should say, is that this is not taxpayer dollars. The nickels that you don't redeem, that's what's funding some of the work that we're doing. And so that's an example of the kind of thing I want to keep working on. And then finally, I've learned over the last 6 years, I'm a collaborator. I'm a compromiser. And as a legislator, I found that I'm an incrementalist. And and I think Augusta needs more of that. Let's work together. People send us there to do a job. Certainly try to bring that ethos to the committees that I serve on: inland fisheries and wildlife, agriculture, conservation and forestry, and as a House chair of the marine resources for the last 2 years. So it's a little bit about why I'm
No,
running.
that's I love your pragmatic view on all that, and really the whole view of you didn't come in with a specific agenda. You came in to find out what people needed, and from hearing from them, that's what initiated some of your rulemaking and your exploration of some of these laws and trying to find solutions, which is the way it's supposed to go, but not always the way it does go. If to be
Yeah.
got so.
Well,
What,
I certainly that yeah, it's certainly the way. Then I learned that on the select board, right? I didn't come
sure.
in with an agenda, right? You just sort of figure it out as people ask questions.
So this would be you've been in for 3 terms, right?
Yep.
So this would be your fourth. All right.
Yeah.
So question three, kind of the big one. What are the three top issues affecting Mainers right now that you look forward to working on if elected?
So most of the things that I've heard from this year have been kitchen table issues, right? Um, Costs of electricity, energy costs. And so at the local level, I'm providing information about how to sign up for the heating assistance program, putting people in touch with the window dressers program. Um, there are Efficiency Maine has some rebates for heat pumps. And then also every town has a heating assistance program. Related to energy, of course, we have, I probably get more calls than just about anything about when the power goes out. And so having a reliable electric grid is important. And one of the things we passed a couple of years ago, and now I'm kind of following up on it, and this may be one of my focuses in the next session, is we passed a law that provided some criteria for accountability for the utility companies, and a sort of a report card. So when they come before the PUC and ask for a rate increase, they can actually well, have you done this, this, and this? And so I think that's really important. And then the other part of the energy costs and electricity costs is storm recovery, right? I mean, our communities, if we can't get climate resilience and storm recovery right, all of this is at risk. And so I've been active in working with making sure that the communities are getting the funds that came from the state. Also our working waterfronts and getting that up and going. Our communities are working on climate resilience and getting grants from the towns for their own, addressing their own needs. So energy is sort of a catch-all one.
Sure.
Property taxes, that's something that I know and I hear from. I happen to be knocking on doors the day that property taxes in one of my towns landed in their mailbox. So I had to be able to talk about that and to address those concerns. And the state I'm really proud of 55% funding for education. That, of course, that doesn't help our schools that are minimum receivers. That's another rabbit hole that we can go down maybe at another time. 5%, fully funding 5% for municipal revenue sharing, and expanding the property tax fairness credit. One of the things that I was really happy about was the taxation committee, and a bipartisan move, expanded the property tax fairness credit, especially for our seniors, that expanded eligibility and also expanded the fairness credit. Actually, our town has also passed an ordinance to expand upon that, set aside a certain amount of money for that, because we want to make sure that our seniors can stay in our communities. I think related to property taxes, I'd be interested in actually expanding the homestead exemption for seniors. But if it's not the state doesn't match it, the reimbursement to towns, it's really not going to do much to other than sort of it looks good, right? I'm actually this has always been a losing battle, but grabbing some of the cannabis tax revenue for towns that host these establishments has been something that, like I said, is a losing battle, but I'm still
Still
ready
fighting.
to fight for it. And then housing is probably the thing I'm sure you've heard from everybody.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. It's
Yeah,
it's 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 the, it's the hot topic. I mean, well,
yeah,
we
yeah.
PFAS has also been a
Right.
hot topic lately, but
Well, yeah, yeah, I imagine. So we've invested a lot of money into various housing programs and incentives. We're hampered by, costs are increasing for materials. What I find is that contractors are as busy as they want to be. But I think also we can do a lot with weatherization and rehabbing existing buildings. I'm not necessarily a fan of building more buildings just because they're new. Let's fix up the ones that we have on our landscape, right? Also in our communities, the rural communities, the rocky coast that I represent, building more housing and increasing density has an impact on the environment. And so our towns, Georgetown is one of them that's looking into water sufficiency and trying to get information on what that means if you build these. And so they're not actually, that's a great example of like that town and other towns are not waiting for the state to kind of come up with a solution. They're also for housing, and they've established their own housing community committee,
yeah.
and I've been active working with them. One of the programs that they're really interested in doing is a home sharing program, and the state has a pilot program that I'm on the advisory board of. It's called Nesterly. It's a home sharing program. So you have people that have houses an extra space, and then you have people who are looking for them. And what I love about Nesterly is that they're not salespeople. They're not trying to just match people up to make money. They're actually social workers. And Georgetown is really taking this on as a way to it helps keep seniors in their home. It helps relieve the housing burden. It helps bring working age families to the community. And so that's really exciting.
Well, and the housing piece is yeah, something that I'm at a lot of different tables for. A few things I like to say is if the answer was inside the box, we would have found it by now.
Yep,
So
yep,
it's got to be a little bit outside the box, and that's like that home sharing program,
yep,
like a little bit outside the box, but you can understand how that could work and how that could be effective. And the
yeah,
thing is, it's such a big problem. It's not going to be a single solution that fixes it. It's going to be a tapestry of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but also identifying those communities that are able to be veteran communities and which ones aren't. And just
right,
like Georgetown isn't sure if their community can their infrastructure will handle,
right,
how many more houses.
right.
What if there was a community that said, actually, we want to build our infrastructure so that we can be this? And NIMBYism plays a huge role in
Yeah,
this. And that's
yeah,
extremely disappointing. What I like to tell people is, your house is there because the neighbors didn't fight it being there. So maybe you could give
yeah,
that
yeah,
same deference
yeah,
to those
yeah.
to
Yeah.
trying to build.
And
Um,
I hope that's changing. Yeah, no, I definitely favor a collaborative approach for that exact same reason, right? That some towns are more equipped. I mean, none of the towns I represent have municipal water and sewer, for
yeah,
instance.
yeah,
And that was actually when that big housing bill that passed a couple of years ago, that was something that initially came as a surprise to the people who had crafted the bill. And so
yeah.
it was up to people like us to sort of say, oh, wait a minute. Do you know what a septic system is? And
But if
that,
there was a community that said, "Hey, you know what? We want to have a lot more people in our
yeah,
tax rolls and everything,"
yeah, yep,
great. Let's start to build this infrastructure so we can be that bedroom community. We're happy to be that.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
think
I
it's
think that tapestry um, word that you used is a perfect example of that. It's going to take a lot of different
Gonna take
programs.
a lot. It's gonna take a lot. And I can talk to you about housing for days, but let's get to question four. If voters could only know two things about you before they fill out their ballot, what would those two things be? I will tell you, I've also asked this question by saying, after you knock on someone's door, what are the two things you hope they remember as you're walking down the driveway? So
Well,
answer it however you want.
that's a, oh, I like that. I like that. Well, actually, because I bring a pad of paper to every door that I knock on, I would like people to know that I listen to everyone who takes the time either to answer their door, to phone me, to email me, or to see me at the Y or or Shaw's or the farmers market or a community event. I'm apparently known as somebody who is everywhere. Allison is just everywhere. But I also spent, this is a good example of yesterday. I sat on the stoop with a woman who, works for DHHS, and we just sat down and we talked about what her job is like, and it's a great note. So I said, "Do you mind if take your phone number so I can reach out to you?" I mean, so there are bills that come up, and there are lobbyist versions, and there are bill versions, and these are people that I can call on, right? People who are actually out doing the work, right? And so I've talked with uh, I bent the ear of, or they bent my ear, but I wanted them to, of foster parents, and something I know nothing about. Um, Pharmacists, substance abuse, law enforcement, all kinds of things that I don't come into contact with every day. And so I'm really lucky to do that. So that's probably one thing. Recognize that I bring a pad of paper to their door. And then finally, and I've mentioned this before, I'm a collaborator at heart, right? I've had good luck. I don't know if it's the middle child in me of trying to get people to work together, but people sent me here to Augusta to do a job, right? And to get things done for them. And if I can only, like say you're here and you want to get here, well, maybe you only get here. But if it's here or not, let's get something done, right? And so I guess that's the other part I want people to remember.
Well, and it's something that you alluded to that I kind of want to spotlight a little bit more is this idea of you growing this network and having, you run into these
Mm.
people because so often people think of our legislators as, oh, they write bills and pass bills. You also help people cut red tape when they don't know
Exactly.
how do I, I'm having a problem with the EPA folks. How do I get in touch with them?
Yeah.
They can reach out to you and you can be like, hey, here's
Yeah.
someone I know over at the
Yeah.
EPA. Let me call them or let me give you their number. And
Exactly.
that's a piece that you all do too often. And I don't think enough people understand what you and your staffs and
Yeah.
that sort of thing do to help
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah, no, exactly that. In fact, you must have been looking over my shoulder this morning because that's what I was doing when I gave up waiting for the boat to take off. I came
Yeah.
home and put some people together on various issues. So, yeah.
Allison, last question. What is the best way for people to connect with you or find out more about you as a candidate?
So my cell phone number is my office number, and my campaign number, it's 207-319-4396. I'm also on Facebook, Allison Hepler for state rep. Um, and also my email, either my legislative email or aheplerwoolwich@gmail.com.
Is there anything, my friend, that I didn't ask about that you wanted to comment on? We covered a lot of ground, but is there anything else that you wanted to say? You don't have to.
No, I was just thinking about not really. I mean, I was thinking back to when we talked a couple of years ago and how the lobster industry in particular was in pretty big difficulty about timelines and changing a lot gauge changes, trawling up, all of those things. And I actually was able to like I said, I've been chair of the Marine Resources Committee. I feel like I'm doing my best and advocating for not just lobster fishermen, but also maybe bringing back shrimp to some extent or another. Fingers crossed. And as also the growing small businesses of aquaculture. And
Yeah.
so I try to keep rooted in these working waterfront communities
That's
a
the
lot.
working waterfront piece of what you do is really outstanding. Well, thank you, my friend. I do appreciate it. Always good talking with you.
Okay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Right.
Talk soon. All right.
Bye.